Today we are reviewing the brand new 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro. Now this 2024 model does have some changes versus the prior models, and let's dig into them to see if this new model has everything to offer that you want to make the right choice. All right, now Uncle Steve and I are behind the wheel of this brand new 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro. And let me start off by saying I am a fan of this SUV, especially in the full-size hybrid segment. You know, you only get one option, and that is Sequoia anyways. It's the only hybrid option out there for these full-size SUVs, and I just like it from the looks to the drive, just everything. Everything's great about it. So let's start off with the exterior. On the exterior, you've got kind of this burnt orange, and it contrasts with the black really well. Looks absolutely phenomenal. Starting off in the front, you do have auto leveling LED headlights and sequential turn signals. So you've got some nice lighting design going on up there. And of course, auto leveling is fantastic, especially for when you're doing some off-road things or you're out in the mountains traversing there. Really helps stay lit up. And then you've got this wide mouth grille. I think it looks fantastic with the blacked out Toyota, and then the roof vents as well. You get TRD Pro on those. No matter where you look on this car, you can tell it is a TRD, and I just think they did the aesthetics perfectly. Another thing that I really love about the front end of the Sequoia TRD Pro is the light bar. I'm a big fan of exterior lights on off-road vehicles, and I'm a big fan of light bars. So the light bar being present on the front grille, I really like how it looks. It adds a little bit of character. It reminds you that this is an off-road vehicle, and you know, it's functional too. It's great for when it's dark at night and you're in a zone where there's a lot of deers or anything like that. So absolute fan of that. Moving along to the side, you do have black, not painted, just black side view mirrors, but you know, they're nice and big. They also do, of course, tilt when you go into reverse. They've got lane departure assistance, and they are heated as well for those cold months. Another thing that's great about the side view mirrors is with one push of a button, they do fold in automatically, and you can also set it up in the settings so that when you turn off the car, they just fold in automatically. I love that function, you know, whether you're going through a car wash or you're parking in a tight garage, it's very handy to get that extra little bit of space to not damage the mirrors. The TRD Pro is accompanied by BBS wheels, and these are 18-inch wheels with Falcon all-terrain tires. I love the beefy tires on these large SUVs. They just look phenomenal, and man, if I could, I would get a pair of these wheels for my Lexus in a heartbeat. They just look fantastic, and you know, of course, having a white Lexus, the black wheels would look even better. Along the side, you do have custom TRD branded rock sliders, and you know, they're really nice. They've got a lot of grip to them. They don't stick out too far, they stick out enough, and it's great that they're there. You know, in an SUV this large, if you don't have a side step or rock sliders, a lot of people will have a hard time, especially the children, you know, so it's not very family friendly without. Also, because this is a TRD Sequoia, this package does come with a custom TRD roof rack as well. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great roof rack. However, it will set you back $1,500. There are a lot of options on the market where you can get a roof rack up there for, you know, $600 to $1,000, much more affordable and reasonably priced. In the rear, like I mentioned, you do have the sequential turn signals and the large brake lights in the rear. And then of course, you've got the blacked out Sequoia going across the rear hatch. One thing that I'm not a huge fan of, just because I am a 4Runner fanboy, and that slide down window in the rear is always going to be held near and dear to my heart. However, Sequoia in recent years did actually get rid of that, but they didn't make the rear window unusable. Instead, you can now press the button between the window and the Sequoia badging. There's a little button, and that pops the back window open, so at least you do get that. Overall, the exterior looks masculine, it looks strong, it looks capable, it's not a bubble. I just think it looks fantastic, and it looks much different than the 4Runner now. I just love it all around. Also on the exterior, which this relates a little bit more to performance, but your control arm inside of the wheel wells are TRD branded. Man, they look absolutely phenomenal, and they are accompanied by Fox shocks. So you get the top tier of performance built right in on a custom package out the door. Now, when you move to the interior of the TRD Pro, the contrast does not stop. Even though it's a largely black interior, there's still contrast everywhere. Starting with the seats, you've got this almost camo-esque seats. I think they look absolutely phenomenal with the red stitching and then the black and white on the inner body of the chair. And then of course they have the TRD Pro badging. And the seats are very comfortable. They look phenomenal. They're not the most adjustable in the world, but they are still about 12-point function. So you get a lot of articulation within the seats to get it as comfortable as you possibly can. On your driver door panel, you do have pretty standard functions. You've got the controls for your side view mirrors, the button to flip your mirrors in and out, and then of course your window controls, your door lock, and your child safety for the windows as well. Also, in a somewhat weird position is where your memory seats are. They're more by where your knee would be, but you do still have 2 memory seat functions, so that's absolutely great. No complaints there. The door handle is very, I'm not gonna lie, it feels a little bit cheap, but it's just black plastic. I guess they put their focus elsewhere. The door handle's not top priority, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna break by any means. It just feels like a little light, I guess. But I really do like the shelf style armrests that you have both on the passenger and driver's side door panels. They're great. On the left-hand side of the steering wheel, you've got a large air vent, which is great. You've got the lights for your rear door, your automatic lights, the button to open the door to access your gas, your gauge cluster brightness button, or trip odometer, parking sensors, of course the button to turn on or off your light bar in the front. Now, there is a trick to that because it only works when your high beams are on. Now, this also, being a TRD Pro, does have a heated steering wheel, the button to activate your 120 volt outlets, and tons of space for you to customize the vehicle further and add more buttons. I love that they do that. Knowing that this is an off-road vehicle, I mean, it is still a full-size SUV. You can drive this every day, no problem, but there will certainly be people out there that kit this out to be an off-road vehicle, and you don't have to go in and put new switches in everywhere because you've got these open buttons right here. Moving on to the steering wheel, you've got this really nice perforated, likely synthetic leather steering wheel, but it's very comfortable to grab. It's got the TRD badging on it at the bottom here, a little bit, it kind of flattens out a little bit, and then the red stripe at the top. It's a good feeling steering wheel. I like the thickness, I like how it feels, and the perforation kind of gives you a little bit of extra grip. It's a good steering wheel. I love it. As for controls, it's all very standard. On the right-hand side, you've got your driving assistance buttons, such as cruise control, lane assistance, adaptive cruise control, etc. On the left-hand side, it's all your multimedia functions and menu selection buttons. So, volume, voice assistant, okay, left, right, up, down. Very standard. Love it. Now, moving on beyond the steering wheel, you do, of course, have a digital gauge cluster. Now, this is a 12.3-inch gauge cluster, and it's not very customizable, but you have everything you need right there. You've got your RPMs, your speed, your PSI for your turbo, your battery level, etc. It's all right there, as well as your distance to empty. Great. So continuing on beyond the steering wheel, to the right of the steering wheel and above the infotainment screen, you do have a little shelving system here that you can store things on. It's about 1.5 inches deep, and it also has a 12-volt outlet in your cigarette lighter style. Below that, you do have a 14-inch infotainment center. This is Toyota's latest infotainment center software. It does have wireless Android Auto and wireless CarPlay. It works very well. I've connected my phone to it, and I've navigated some places and changed some menus around and everything. It works very well. Now, the integrated Toyota software, as we all know, it's rather limiting. It does have hotspot and all those features, though. Another interesting thing that it does have when you come to a slower speed and you're coming to a stop, it switches to your camera angles in front of your car so that you can see where you are. I think that's rather neat and handy. How often you'll use it, I don't really know, but it does it, and I think it's cool. But it is a very large 14-inch display. I do wish that it was ever so slightly tilted a little bit more towards me so that it would be a little bit easier to use for the driver, but nonetheless, since it's so large, it's fine. Below that, you've got your volume knob and a lot of switches. One thing I love is that you don't have to navigate the touchscreen in order to do everything. You've got physical switches for your AC and for different functions of the car. So, you know, you've got your temperature, your fan speed, rear sync. So you've got 3-zone climate control here. And below those, since this does have both heated and ventilated seats for your driver and front passenger, you've got those buttons, your front and rear defrost, as well as your side view mirror defrost, and different air functions. Below those, you've got your tow mode, your camera view button, your traction control, your hazard lights, and finally your electronic rear diff button. Beyond below those, you do have one wireless charging pad, your hold button for your braking, and your parking brake, which is an electronic parking brake. It does also have 2 large cup holders that are big enough to fit a Yeti. And then you've got your mode selector. So you've got drive modes, which are sport, economy, and normal. And then you've got your tow haul button, your downhill acceleration control, and crawl mode, as well as your 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low toggle. Because this is not an all-time 4-wheel drive, it is a on-demand 4-wheel drive. Now, this does have a astronomically large center console too. It's a very interesting one as well. Like you can see, there's a center area that slides backwards and forwards, and then when you open it up, it has a very large interior storage system and places for keys, outlets, etc. And that's not to forget, you do have a Type A port underneath the infotainment center on the right-hand side. Above the infotainment center, you do have both a normal rear view mirror and a digital rear view mirror, so you can select it. Obviously, if you pull the tab forward, it switches to digital. If you leave it back, it's a normal rear view mirror. This one is equipped with 3 home link buttons, and there's some other interesting things about this rear view mirror that I ran into. You can alter the camera in the back to either zoom it in and out, to have it pan left and right, or up and down. I thought that was pretty cool. You can also manually adjust the brightness of the display or have it just set to automatic. That's pretty handy. Now beyond that, there was something I was not expecting to see in the Sequoia, and that is the dash cam built in. So you've got basically an action cam dash cam right there. You can either take the SD card out and access the files on your computer, or you can connect your phone to it and access the files right there. It records in 2-minute segments, or you can have it record full time. I think that's pretty neat. It's awesome that it's there. And also, I mean, dash cams nowadays are very handy to have given uninsured drivers and things like that. So I think it's great that it's included for only $500 is the price tag on the sheet. Moving on above that, you do have a glasses storage case, and then the controls for your rear hatch and the panoramic sunroof shade and the panoramic sunroof itself, as well as your door lights. I do love that this has a giant panoramic sunroof. It just makes it feel that much bigger, and it's just great. I also like that when you close the shade itself, it's not like a haphazard shade. It just kind of like barely, you know, lets the sun out. It actually does a really good job of keeping the light out. Now, one thing the Sequoia TRD Pro is not equipped with, which is somewhat shocking for an $80,000 vehicle, is it does not have a heads-up display. Moving along into the back, on the backhand side of the center console, you do have rear climate control. No heated and ventilated seats for the second row in this model. However, it is an option that you can get. And of course, these seats are fitted just the same as the front, however, minus the TRD Pro badging, but they look just as good. The rear is also outfitted with a Type C port and a Type A port, as well as a 120 volt outlet. So you've got all the power you need in the second row there. And I also love that they're captain chairs. There is an option actually to get a bench seat so you can fit 8 passengers instead of 7, but you know, the bench seats just make it that much harder to have it be accessible for the family, get in and out, especially if you've got a kid to buckle up. Yeah, it's just a mess. Moving on to the third row, they're still just as spacious. Uncle Steve fit back there. We shoved him back there as we always do. And you know, being 6'9", he fit back there just fine. Okay, I'm kidding. Steve is actually 6'2", but he fits back there fantastically. You can recline these seats and everything, and they're actually quite comfortable. You know, some would argue that they're too small for an adult, but I think if you're only going for a couple hours or something, they're absolutely plenty. Another thing that is plenty is the storage and power in the third row. Both sides get a Type-C outlet, both sides have storage options, and both sides recline. You do lose a bit of storage due to how these seats are, because not only do they slide forwards, but they slide backwards in case you do have someone a little bit bigger like Uncle Steve back there and they need a little bit more knee room. But overall, I think they're quite nice. Now moving on to the back hatch, you do have a power tailgate. Now this can be either activated with the key fob itself, or with your foot, or with the button on the tailgate. Now the storage space in the rear is slightly limited versus other full-size SUVs. But like mentioned, if you have children in the third row, you can slide the third row forward so that you get a little bit more storage space, or if you like, you can just fold them all the way down. It is 12 cubic foot of space back here, which is honestly plenty a lot of the time. There's also one 120 volt power outlet in the back as well. But of course, if you do put the seats down, you do get more storage space, but it is uneven. So that is a trade-off you have, but it works. Now, as for the drive, it is actually extremely comfortable. I like it a lot. I've always liked the feel of the 4Runners. You know, it reminds me a lot of that, just a little bit bigger. You're sitting up really high. This is a very high vehicle. The visibility is absolutely phenomenal, even with quite a raked window. It's probably at about a 30-degree slant, but the visibility is fantastic. You can see out every window very well. The ride is extremely smooth. It shifts perfectly, I would say. You don't really feel any bumps. I don't hear any wind noise. I don't hear any road noise, even with these beefy all-terrain tires. My seating position, extremely comfortable. You know, I'm a really big fan of this 2024 Sequoia TRD Pro. All right, now we are going to do our 0 to 60 test in the 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro. We've got our race box on and ready to go. So let's see how she does. Pulls back decently hard, hearing that turbo kick in. And we get a 6.57. It's not bad considering the size of this vehicle. It's absolutely huge.
Well, it's time for Uncle Steve to talk about the powertrain. Well, Toyota only offers one engine option, which is the 3.4-liter V6 twin-turbo hybrid with the electric motor. It produces 437 horsepower and 583 foot-pound of torque. And for the fuel economy, combined is 22 miles per gallon. For SUV this size, it's actually pretty good. On average, full-size sedan is about 22 miles per gallon. So with a 7-seater full-size SUV for 22 miles per gallon, it's great. For the drivetrain, they have two options: two-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive is the standard for TRD Pro, and for the other model is optional. So for pricing each model, then I have to ask Josh.
Yeah, the pricing for the 2024 Toyota Sequoia starts out with the SR5 at $63,220. The Limited comes in at $69,620. The Platinum comes in at $75,810. Capstone at $80,210. And the TRD Pro, which we're driving today, at $81,055.
Besides Toyota offer two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, the drivetrain, they all equipped with 10-speed automatic transmission, which is really good for towing and off-roading. I'm glad that Toyota didn't put CVT transmission in it, and CVT is just way too weak for off-roading and towing.
Also, speaking about towing, this does have a 9,000-pound towing capacity.
Wow.
With built-in trailer brakes already.
So, can you give us an example how much is a 9,000 pound as like a full-size boat?
You could tow a 40-foot RV.
40-foot RV, okay. So basically I can tow a heavy SUV with the trailer.
Yes.
And more.
And more.
All right, let's move on to Uncle Steve's story time. So today we're gonna talk about four-wheel drive. Since you're really good at truck towing, so can you tell us about the difference between four-wheel drive, 4x4, all-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive? As there has been a lot of confusion, including for myself, sometimes I mess up the wording. And when I go up, the all-wheel drive actually is not really popular. So they have a lot of terminology for this. So, well, Josh, what is the difference between four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive?
Well, all-wheel drive is typically all-time four-wheel drive, right? All wheels turn at the same time. Four-wheel drive is typically on demand, and you get a little bit more power. And there you go.
Do they save gas, a little bit more gas?
Well, yeah, because you don't have it all the time.
Okay. So what's the downside for it? Like, I assume the downside is if you're driving in a slow day and you forget to turn the four-wheel drive, and then you just like you turn and your car just skid.
Yeah, but that's user error.
It's a user error. Okay. So people who really aggressive is just step on the gas like, oh shit.
Yeah, they'll be saying that when they're sliding sideways.
And I believe a lot of people on websites now is saying they don't recommend like you driving at a high speed or four-wheel drive.
You should not be driving on the highway in four-wheel drive. Okay. It's for your low speeds, adverse conditions, etc. Especially for low. That's for like rock crawling or bad snow, etc.
I see. Well, thank you, Josh. Well, the next thing I want to talk about the size, because size matters.
That's what she said.
So I know a lot of people, including myself, thought about the LX600, which is the Land Cruiser 300 series. It's actually bigger than this Sequoia, but in fact it's not. Well, based on the data, they say this is actually 120, the wheelbase is 122 inch versus 112 inch for the LX600. So it's about 10 inches longer wheelbase. The wheelbase is measured from the front center wheel all the way to the back, the rear center of the wheel. That's wheelbase measurement. And this is a little bit shorter than the Tundra. And then for the overall length is 8 inch longer than the LX600. So what do you think, Josh? Do you feel this is bigger than the LX600?
I do, because the interior just feels so spacious. And you know, this does command a lot of space on the road. It feels really wide, so it does feel bigger to me, but I guess numbers don't lie.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot bigger. It's probably one of the SUV that with third wall can sit inside very comfortable in the back. You can slide forward and backward, and a lot of full-size SUV you cannot do it, and it's horrible in the LX600. And then you can recline the back too, you know, that's actually making it even more feel comfortable. So let's talk about the drive. I really like this car as well, like you said. It does not drive like a truck at all, you know. If you have driven a truck, you know how like full-size truck like drive. It doesn't feel like a driving SUV, but this is driving like SUV. And then I'm pretty sure it's really good in off-road too.
Yeah, in terms of this being really good for off-road though, I will say I've known a lot of people and I've seen a lot of Sequoias that are built out for the off-road. Not only do they look phenomenal, but they perform great too, even with the longer wheelbase.
Believe it or not, I normally being like frugal, like because I'm Asian. And for 80 grand for this car, I totally believe it's worth every single penny.
I do too.
You know, but however, you know, 2 years ago, I think a lot of dealers market up to 100 grand. And I don't think anybody would pay a Toyota, like a brand new Toyota for $100,000.
Absolutely not.
But for 80 grand, I'm fine. Because if you put it in comparison to the Tacoma, the TRD, not the TRD off-road, but not TRD Pro Tacoma, that costs 50 grand. And it doesn't have this much feature. They have this built-in integrated dash cam, and then the rear tailgate with sensor with you can open and close with your foot, and the camera, all this camera. I really like this Sequoia a lot too, you know.
So do I. So do I. So in conclusion, what do we think of the 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro? Well, you've heard it. We absolutely love it. It's got the value, it's got the size, it's got the power, it's got the technology. What more do you need? And, you know, versus other full-size SUVs in the segment, I think it's better than all of them. And you get the gas mileage is fantastic. It looks fantastic. It fits adults and children. You know, there's not really many negatives. I mean, yes, the powertrain is unproven, but I mean, it's Toyota. So you've got a good chance that it's going to be good and it's going to last a long time.
And they do have TRD snow coat kit for it.
Nice.
which is about $800.
That's not bad.
That's not bad for manufacturer, for my manufacturer.
Right. Not bad at all. So let us know in the comments what you think of the 2024 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro, and we'll see you on the next one.
One more thing, the tailgate did not break my eggplant.
Yeah, no. The Toyota's pressure sense is absolutely phenomenal. It like barely touching, it's like, nope.
By far the best one we have tested, right?
Yeah. So there you have it. It won't smash your fingers either. We'll see you on the next one.